New at 11, violence against America continues across the globe in response to a film that's offended many Muslims. Plus, Pope Benedict is on a 3-day trip to promote peace between Christians and Muslims.
We've enjoyed some nice weather lately, but we have some rain on the way and another cool down. I'll cover the 7-day forecast coming up.
The Braves are still 6.5 games behind the Nationals in the NL East, but they're not going down without a fight. Highlights from their Game 2 win in sports.
And she's America's guilty pleasure. Austin Lewis sat down with Alana Thompson. Look out, Central Georgia, here comes Honey Boo Boo.
This is 13 WMAZ Eyewitness News at 11.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Candace Adorka. Protests over an anti-Islamic film have now spread outside of the Middle East to Australia.
We're defending our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We're defending his honor.
Muslim activists demonstrated at the U.S. consulate in Sydney. Police sprayed the crowd with what appears to be pepper spray, and protesters threw objects at police. At least one officer was hurt, and fellow officers dragged him away. Now, the trailer of the film, The Innocence of Islam, is set to depict the Prophet Muhammad in a negative and disrespectful way. It sparked the first protests on Tuesday when a mob rushed the consulate in Libya and killed the U.S. ambassador and 2 other consul employees. Since then, protests and riots have popped up in several countries in the Middle East and North Africa, including Israel, Yemen, Iran, Iraq, Egypt, Sudan, and Morocco. In Cairo, Egypt, officers cleared protesters from Tahrir Square. Now, a concrete barrier blocks the entrance to the embassy there. President Obama is calling on all nations to protect Americans serving overseas. But even as some of the demonstrations subside, Al-Qaeda is urging protesters to keep up the attacks on U.S. embassies. The Pope is on a 3-day trip to Lebanon to promote peace among people with different beliefs. Anna Mantranga was in the crowd as he gathered with young Christians in Beirut.
A festival of song and dance where hundreds of thousands are expected to attend.
Now, back in the U.S., the Obama administration revealed how it plans to cut more than $100 billion in spending from the budget. The cuts will affect everything from government salaries to after-school programs. Military personnel and the Department of Veterans Affairs will be exempt from the cuts. The Department of Defense will also be able to shift funds so that critical military readiness will not be impaired. The administration did acknowledge that cuts would have negative impacts. For instance, they'll reduce services for military families and also decrease preparation of non-deployed units. Congress will probably wait to address the cuts until after the presidential election. Now, if you're frustrated with your bank and considering dropping it altogether, you're not alone. There are nearly 10 million American households living without a checking or a savings account. That's according to a new FDIC report just released this week. The report also says that 10%, the South has the largest percentage of unbanked residents. The national average is 8.2. Census data shows nearly 40% of the country's poor live in the southern states, and experts say that leads to more unbanked residents. The FDIC report says some of the reasons people don't use financial institutions are a lack of money, high bank fees, or a mistrust of banks. American Airlines is the latest carrier to lighten pilots' loads with the help of some cutting-edge technology. They'll soon be able to access manuals and charts on the iPads in the cockpit. The FAA approved the use of tablets last year, but American is the first to use them from gate to gate. The change is expected to save the airline more than $1 million in fuel alone. United Airlines has been paperless since last year, and many other airlines have been using flight apps that don't use Wi-Fi. One of Georgia's top schools plans to close down its journalism program. Emory University made the announcement this week. The 160 students already in the program will be able to finish their courses. The journalism department director says the 16-year-old program has grown in the past few years and that the move surprised many faculty members. One of the school's deans says the Arts College has too many departments and it's stretched to the limit. Emory also plans to shut down its Division of Educational Studies as well as the Physical Education and Visual Arts departments.
Well, not a bad evening out there. If you're heading out, it's still warm and comfortable with 77 degrees in downtown Macon. We'll track the timing of that with the Future View coming up in just a little bit.
Thanks, John. Looking forward to it. Now, millions of viewers across the United States are tuning into the Learning Channel's Here Comes Honey Boo Boo, starring a family from Wilkinson County. Honey Boo Boo and her mother, June Shannon, met several members of the media today, including our very own Austin Lewis. She has the story.
WMIZ, I love you, and you better recognize.
That's Alana Thompson. Austin Lewis, 13 WMAZ Eyewitness News.
Now, June Shannon said she didn't know if the show will be on for a second season. Fans will just have to tune in and see. A music festival from the 1970s became a part of Byron history, and today that history was put on display. City officials and festival goers were on hand to dedicate a historical marker at a site on U.S. Highway 41 next to the Middle Georgia Raceway in Byron. That's where the second Atlanta International Pop Festival was held. The three-day festival was like Woodstock, featuring the Allman Brothers, B.B. King, and Jimi Hendrix. It brought about 500,000 people to Peach County.
I would like for another pop festival to be gave here, really, you know.
That was Mayor Larry Collins. He says he hopes that this is the first step for future events to be held at the historical site. Coming up after the break, we'll take you to events around Central Georgia, one that celebrates the area's Native American heritage and another that promoted health and education. Stay with us.